there's a political aspect to this as well. And joining us now to talk about coronavirus and the concerns here at home, Pennsylvania Congressman Fred Keller. Congressman, thank you for joining us. You know, we've seen this be political, and I got to say, most people don't want it political. They just want to solve the problems associated with it. What's been your experience so far trying to address this issue of coronavirus?
Well, the first thing I'd like to say is, you know, the administration and President Trump has done what he always does when it comes down to the security and safety of the American people, and that is his actions have been decisive and preventative. The first thing he did, which he took some heat for, but I thought was very wise, was he restricted travel from the affected areas. So when you look at what the president did there and then put the full weight of the federal government behind addressing this issue, having the vice president in charge of what's going on to make sure that if people needed things, they got it immediately. I think the president's been handling it very well. In fact, if you look at Johns Hopkins, they put out a 2019 Global Health Security Index report saying that the United States is best capable of all nations of dealing with the pandemic. So again, I know there's been people that have been critical of the president, but I don't think there's any reason to be. I think the president is taking decisive and preventive action to keep the American people safe.
You know, the president had initially suggested contributing $2.5 billion in funding to combat this virus. Senator Chuck Schumer coming back saying, no, we want $8.5 billion. But it did seem as though President Trump would be willing to at least consider additional spending for it to combat this virus. Do you think that this can be a bipartisan approach to solving this, again, American problem that we could be facing if more cases continue to pop up?
I think it has to be, you know, one that we look at as far as the American people. And again, the president has done that. It's unfortunate that some other people have not. But President Trump has looked at this as an issue facing America, not an issue facing Democrats or Republicans. It just faces America. And he's approaching that, as he does everything he does, as just making sure that he takes care of the American people and their safety.
Tell us what you think about what's going on in the Democratic primaries. And I know you must keep an eye on it. You're at Pennsylvania, a swing state. We're going to see South Carolina this weekend and then Big Super Tuesday. What are you watching as somebody who's on the other side of the aisle?
Well, the one thing, you know, there's been a report out that was put out in Town Hall, I think it was Town Hall today, with a Muhlenberg report that shows the president in Pennsylvania is statistically tied or ahead against any of the Democrat candidates. And, you know, let's take a look at what's happened since the first debate. And you look at the first debate and you had a field of candidates on the Democrat side raising their hand to take taxpayer money and use it to pay for benefits for people inside the United States that are illegal aliens. And, you know, we need to pay close attention to this. We need to make sure that, as the president has always done, we put Americans and America's interests first. And, you know, you look at some of what's happening and the socialist policies that are being put forth. I mean, the leader in the Democrat race is an independent socialist. And, you know, if you want to look at what socialist policies do to American cities, look at the birthplace of America in Philadelphia, where the mayor, Kenney, did a dance when they accepted sanctuary city status, and the district attorney, Krasner, who is not prosecuting drug crimes and letting violent criminals out, and now they're opening, you know, there's a proposal in Philadelphia to open, you know, drug houses to let people inject themselves with illegal drugs. These policies, if that's what we want America to look like, that's the socialist. I mean, you don't even have to point to Venezuela and all these other countries. We don't want to be like that. We want to be like the country that our founders saw, that shining city on a hill, and their policies aren't going to do it. You look at the Green New Deal, where they say the first year that's going to cost the average household $75,000 and then $40,000 over the next 5 or 4 years. So in 5 years, you could pay for college, and yet they want to put these mandates on the house we live in, the car we drive, what school we go to, because the Senator Sanders free college is in government schools, so the government will have control over what they teach you, who gets educated, and how it benefits the government. We're not ready to hand this control over to a few bureaucrats at the top. I mean, you look at the ban on fracking, and the energy independence in America is so important that we don't transfer wealth to nations that hate us and our allies. Yet Senator Sanders and Representative Ocasio-Cortez look at these things and, you know, they're just absent of common sense. And people aren't ready for it. People don't want, that I talk to and that I represent, don't want to take over their lives by the federal government.
Okay.
All right. That's Pennsylvania Congressman Fred Keller. Thanks so much for joining us.